My name's Jan Rather. I'm the Infrastructure Engagement Specialist in the Mayor's Office. We're here to talk about the West Pittsburgh REACH Neighborhood Mobility Plan. This is a listening session, so we're here to collect feedback. We're in the early phases of community engagement on this project. So you're going to see some information about data we've already collected online, but we also want to make sure we're filling any gaps with things that we might have missed through that engagement. Engagement will continue, so nothing is being decided at this meeting. We just really want to hear from you what your thoughts are. So this is our agenda for the meeting. We'll do a welcome and introductions. We'll go over our meeting norms. We'll do a brief safety overview. We'll talk about the purpose of the meeting, the project schedule, what we've heard, done, and seen, and then we'll have an activity, and that will kind of wrap us up. So I'm joined by Kevin Brown.
Hello, everyone.
And Panini Chowdhury in the back there, both from the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure. They're with the planning division at the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure and are the ones developing this plan along with our consultant Tool. So these are our meeting norms. These are just things we like to agree to with the folks that we're meeting with. So first and foremost is your physical and psychological safety. So I'll have a slide about that in a minute. Encourage you to listen to learn, disagree respectfully, appreciate differences, be open to new ideas, and be present. The quickest way out of the building is probably the entrance you all came in through. So to the back and then out the doors there. There is an AED here and a first aid kit. And then I'll be the person to call 911 if there's an emergency. It also looks like restrooms, if you need them, are in the back of the building. I'm going to hand it off to Kevin now to talk about the purpose of the meeting.
Great. I'm going to take that too. Hi, everyone. As Jan mentioned, my name is Kevin Brown. I'm the project manager for this project. And so the purpose of the meeting, why we're all here today, is to collect information from you all primarily. But first off, we're going to start out sharing a little bit of what we've found out so far from our engagement so far during the West Pittsburgh REACH Neighborhood Mobility Plan. And then, as I mentioned, to collect anything that we've missed, because this is sort of the tail end of the first phase of public engagement for this project. So after this, we'll hand things off to the consultant to start developing possible projects, interventions for anything that we find that needs intervention, and then we'll bring that all back together for a planning workshop later this summer that we hope you'll all join us at. So this study, as I'm sure some of you may already know, this plan is looking at 4 neighborhoods in West Pittsburgh. So that's Esplin, Sheridan, Elliott, and West End. This project in general will cover 3 main key areas, and that's pedestrian and traffic safety, connectivity and accessibility improvements both among the neighborhoods of West Pittsburgh and to surrounding communities and into downtown and to other parts of Pittsburgh in general. And then there will be a community placemaking and wayfinding element of it as well. With the help of the community, with the help of you all, we hope that this plan will highlight critical projects and deliver a mobility vision that improves safety for all users of all modes, and that these developments will help benefit existing residents, visitors to these neighborhoods, and also help to attract new residents and new visitors to these neighborhoods. The project timeline, it's maybe a little bit hard to read, but this is going to be, the presentation will be shared out for anyone. But we're right here sort of in the July area, and so we've done, the consultant is on board, and we're in the first phase of public engagement right now. We're sort of nearing the end of that, which is what this meeting is for. And so far, the initial part of our public engagement process was primarily done through the Engage page. And we've had a lot of input through Engage. We've had over 1,200 visits to the page across 900 plus visitors. 217 contributions by 152 contributors. I'm sure a lot of you have already been to the Engage page and have seen it. There's a survey on there that asks a lot of different questions and then asks you to rank the type of infrastructure improvements that you'd like to see or you think are most important through this planning process. The first element of the plan that we talked about was safety, and that's really important because in the last 5 years in these 4 neighborhoods there have been over 500 crashes. 1 fatal crash, 13 pedestrian crashes, and 5 bicycle crashes. And the map there shows them in color-coded. The blue dots are injury crashes, so you can see a lot of these crashes were injury crashes. There was 1 fatal crash, and then those 13 pedestrian crashes. So those are the part of the reason that we're here is to try and reduce that number and to make it safe for everyone to get around, however they get around these neighborhoods. And so far in the planning process, we've actually done 6 walk audits, but the first one was part of the Safe Routes to School program, but members of the project team attended that, and that was based around Langley Elementary. And we walked around there, and then we also walked at these 5 locations. And these locations were selected primarily through engagement or input we received through the Engage page. And so they were at Chartiers between Allendale and Straka Street, and then Chartiers at Corliss, Chartiers at Lorenz, and then Wabash between Steuben and McCartney. And while we were there doing those walk audits, did it not work? All right. We noticed a lot of things. The consultant was with us as well, but among those, we noticed a lot of poor sidewalk conditions, broken, obstructed sidewalks, debris on the sidewalks, transit access improvements that could be made, bus stops in need of repair or maintenance or improved accessibility to them, areas where there's just completely missing sidewalk or broken road conditions like you see here. And we also saw a lot of missing crosswalks and lacking ADA ramps. So some of these other ones that we don't have pictures of in this presentation are missing, hidden, or outdated wayfinding signage, broken sets of city steps, cutting off vital routes, shortcuts through the neighborhood, and then confusing intersection designs that lead to dangerous crossings and unpredictable driving behavior. As I mentioned, or as Jan mentioned before, it's a sort of short presentation, and the main purpose of why we're here today is to get info from you. So toward the back of the room, we have a map set up, and we have 2 large printouts with these questions on them. And so what we want to do is gather everyone toward the back of the room. Hopefully everyone can get some pizza. And then we can go through and ask you guys these questions. And then as you're giving us answers, we'll write them on Post-its. And if they have very location-specific element to them, we'll put a dot on the map for those locations. And those are all color-coordinated to that, to the colors of the Post-its. So everyone, if you want to take a couple of minutes to head toward the back of the room.
Also, before we do that, just if there's any general questions about anything here, we're happy to take a couple questions here, but we really want most of the feedback to be at the boards and stations. So if there's something from the presentation that you want to know more about, we're happy to pass the mic around and try and answer any questions folks might have. Okay, well, I'm going to do it just so that they can pick it up on the audio.
I just simply want to ask, what is is it placemaking and wayfinding?
I could give an answer, but I'm going to let the expert handle this.
Yeah, no problem. So I'll start with wayfinding. That's probably the simplest one. Wayfinding is just generally signs that help you find your way around an area. So those might be signs that lead you to Sheridan Park or the Sheridan Park Pool or McGonigal Field. or signs that help you find destinations within the neighborhood, so West End Overlook, or other signs like detour routing or snow emergency route, that sort of thing. And then placemaking is more of a general neighborhood specific or area specific, almost like a design language. So you would have like the signs that say like, welcome to Sheridan, and those share a similar design to other signs in the neighborhood that tell you about where the business district is, or that sort of thing. So those are designed to essentially like create a identity for the area and to help promote, so you could help promote the area, and then once people come to the area, they know they're there. So that's maybe not the most eloquent explanation of it, but that's.
I think that covered it. Yeah, another question here.
I don't know if this is the appropriate question for this portion. What is the qualification for speed bumps as far as the city installing them?
I'll try and take this one. So there's a couple different ways. The most common way right now is the neighborhood traffic calming program, which addresses smaller neighborhood residential streets. So that wouldn't be like the Steubens, the Noblestown roads. It'd be like the Tyndall streets. And what DOMI there is looking for there, and DOMI again is the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure, is looking for something called the 85th percentile speed above 30 miles per hour and a certain volume of traffic. And so the 85th percentile is the speed at which 85% or the majority of drivers feel comfortable driving. And so on a 25 mile per hour road, if 85% of drivers feel comfortable driving up to 30 miles per hour, that would be a street that is eligible. Now, how streets are prioritized is a little bit different. We have thousands of streets in the city, we have hundreds that are eligible, and we have to go through and prioritize which streets are the most dangerous. And so that's where things like the crash history, things like schools, parks, et cetera, come in. And DOMI is right now handling about 15 to 20 of those projects. The other way is through like dedicated funding. And so, a project like this might look at a project that redoes Steuben Street. I'm just making that up. That's not, necessarily something. And if there was a large grant to look at Steuben Street, you could look at also doing traffic calming through that as well.
And I do think that as a part of this planning process, if there are streets that the community identifies as being dangerous, we want to know about those, because those would be good to add into the plan as far as something that might need a traffic calming intervention that could become a dedicated project like Jan was talking about.
Okay, in reference to that, I pastor Jerusalem Baptist Church on Steuben Street. Soon as you start up Steuben Street, there has been speeding to the excess of 50 miles an hour, and that I know that's not the speed limit. That's beyond the speed limit. And also, my experience, I was in a car accident 5 years ago. This guy came speeding up. I was getting in my car, came speeding up Steuben Street, knocked my vehicle into the church steps, okay? And the circumstances were he was intoxicated or whatever, but still, he was speeding up Steuben Street. And yes, we had another congregant, she just reminded me, that her car was parked and someone came down Steuben Street speeding. And so when you mentioned crash investigations, I wanted to know that about the speed bumps, what qualifies.
Thank you for that, and I'm sorry that happened to you. Yeah, so that crash would be in our crash data and would be part of the analysis for looking at a corridor like Steuben. The reason a street, sometimes I think it can be frustrating for people when a neighborhood street gets traffic calming before a major street like Steuben. But we have the planners here whose job it really is to look at those major arteries, and they're a lot harder to plan for because of the volume of vehicles, the buses, the emergency services. There's just a lot more that needs to go into consideration for those than some of the smaller residential streets. But definitely, we'll take that feedback and make sure it gets looked at, so.
It's also a street on Middletown Road, and it's off of Churches Avenue. There's the park across the street, and it's a lot of activity over there now. But they got speed bumps going up Churches Avenue from, let me see, from Wind Gap until Middletown Road. They got speed bumps. But coming down, it's bad. And those people, my daughter live on that street, and I know other people who live on there, but they've been asking for speed bumps. It's bad on that street, so that's another street to consider.
Thanks, yeah, and I don't want to minimize any of the conversations about specific locations, but we do have the map there, and we'll definitely encourage folks to leave comments on the map at specific locations where people have. There's another question in the back here, so I'm going to head back there. We'll do like 2 or 3 more questions, and then I want to make sure we have time for the activity.
I just want to put this on public record. On Steuben and Obie Street, right across from the War Memorial, there's a home there that has 5 trees that are dead. They're on the owner's property. During the last windstorm, a branch fell down into the yard. The problem with the trees are leaning precariously out over Steuben Street. When school starts up, there's 50 kids waiting for the bus under those trees. One of those trees is going to fall down on those kids, so I want it on public record at this meeting that that homeowner should cut those trees down. Thank you.
Thanks, and I'll make sure that gets filed with 311 as well. Oh, thank you. Question here.
You may have already addressed this. This is more general. I understand you're doing research here, but I'm wondering if there's any budget allocated for any of this yet?
So not for anything that we're discussing today. There is money allocated for a phase 2 project along Chartiers Ave, but this project would be, this plan is to identify additional projects other than that. So we're not going to be focusing on that project today, but the point of this planning process is to gather and catalog all of the needs of the community and the projects that are identified out of this plan so that we can then pursue additional funding to do these projects later on. So that's why we're trying to get as much information from people as possible so that we can start to develop a prioritized list of projects that we can then start checking off as we are able to gain funding for them.
My concern is there are many people that walk this neighborhood and they go shopping. We have a lot of blind corners along Chartiers Avenue where people are speeding around the corners, people are trying to cross the street with their grocery bags, and they're almost getting hit. What are we going to do about the blind corners in the major traffic areas?
Thanks for that question.
Yeah, that's the type of information we want to know. So when we go back and do the mapping exercise, if you have some locations of them, we can put them on the map, or you can just give them to us as a list of the ones that you know of, or just tell us the general location of them, and we'll try to catalog those so that those could become a part of a project in this plan.
And I would also say, you know, all of this stuff will get, I think, shared with our traffic team as well. So if there's implementations that they can do sooner as part of the traffic calming or Vision Zero work, I'm sure that there are implementations that would make some of these streets safer before that the planning department tries to go out and get funding. So, if there's a really high priority spot, definitely let us know, and we'll have our traffic team take a look at that as well. Any other questions? Otherwise, I think we'll head to the back where there's the questions. The questions that are up here are again replicated back there, sticky notes, and then the map. I really encourage folks to grab a slice of pizza, meet your neighbors, talk to Kevin and Panini. I'll be back there as well if folks have more general questions.